I got this video where there's no audio from several months ago right here. This is the UT Southwestern Medical Campus. That's where they heal people in there. Anyway, so I just sat down. I've been kind of feeling down this morning. I'm like, man, I'm just such a fucking drag. Like, you know, I just got my hair cut. When I look at all these people have no care in the world. They're like, you know, barber's like popping this new girl. His next client, he's going to Miami. Just got his dog trained. Everyone's looking at the future, you know? And I'm sitting here, I'm like, I'm not complaining, but I'm just like, man, this sucks. Like, it would be so much nicer, easier to just go on with my life, you know? To adopt that same type of thinking that everyone else seems to have. Not everyone, but a lot of people seem to have in terms of like, well, you can plan for the future. Even people who are like, well, climate change is like a big deal, like we gotta fucking stop it, it's urgent. They're still thinking in terms of like 10 years from now, you know? Not in terms of 3 days. I'm just like, fuck, man. And I think about sort of, you know, when I, was calling out May 21st of 2018 Japanese time, or May 20th US time, you know, I was like the same mentality. I was like, okay, like if nothing happens, then I can fucking move on with my life. And then the Kilauea volcano, you know, erupted, and then big fucking lava flow, and eventually it hit the ocean on the day that I planned, the sea of glass and fire. So my point is, I was going to walk from this, what was it, May 21st, so it's like May 29th. That was over a year ago, just over a year ago. And the same mentality as I'm going into June 19th. Except this time I got a book written, a full fucking YouTube channel documenting the entire journey with hundreds of videos. I got two deacons at a church that we have a dialogue with, or I have a dialogue with. One who's like a sort of quasi-adopting the type of thinking, you know. We've been studying this book written by some fucking whoever it is. It's not me, and it's not anyone who's Davidic, which is these are the only people to listen to. But anyway, so we go through like a topic of, it's like, what is God, or, you know, who is God, right? And like the thing is, we got to a chapter on holiness. You know, what is it to be holy? You know, and if you ask many people who are, you know, Christian, Muslim, whatever, it's like, oh, you don't do certain things physically. That's sort of the holiness. And you pray, and you know, it's like, be this perfect fucking individual. No. Holy, well, okay, here's where the conversation went. I was like, to the deacon, I said, you know, okay, holy, like, is God cool? He goes, cool. I'm like, yeah, is God cool? He goes, I don't know, I guess it depends on what you define cool as. I'm like, God's cool. He's funny. You know, he's just like us, except he's, you know, he has a perfect solution for the future. And his solution, it's perfect. It's not, you know, the idea of like heaven on earth isn't some bullshit like bunch of holy people walking around and be like, it's just normal people like us, you know, without that standard of like, you know, you have to do this and do that. Fuck all that. It's 10 commandments. And in terms of like adhering to the 10 commandments, that's one way to look at it. I look at it as I can do anything I want as long as I do those commandments. I can break every fucking rule, every, you know, expectation of society, you know, religion, like fucking political leader. Fuck you. As long as I keep his commandments. That's the big thing. It's how much fun you can have while still keeping his commandments. So in terms of holy is understanding that he has 10 commandments, keeping them in your fucking mind, and having a blast with him. Your thoughts are on him. What percent of my day is devoted to thinking about God? And if that percent is like, you know, under fucking 85% of my time, I'm failing. That was a cool drop, actually. Anyway, sorry, it started to rain. So anyway, these are the things that I've been thinking about. Just like, man, like I would have no problem, just going on with my life. But it's that reason there which makes me, it's just another confirmation that I'm the fucking anointed one. Despite all the shit that I've matched in Revelation, all the explanation, I'm the kid caught up to God, I got to see a glass of fire, Revelation 12 sign, got the whole thing explained. Just that alone, which is just in the same mentality I had last year going into that volcano thing. I can walk from this. Like, I'm walking from this unless people start to die. It's like, even if it's fucking 10 years until climate change, that's 10 fucking years. I don't have to stick to this timeline. But for that reason, it's not. Well, that, and also it's, written in the book of Revelation. 42 months of power, whoever the Antichrist is. In chapter 9, it says there's 5 months of torment from locusts, and let's see. Okay, so 42 months of power from your perspective. I don't know how it's going to look. 5 months of locust, and after that is 13 months and a day and an hour where 1/3 of humanity dies. Now, it's like a year, a month, a day, and an hour. That's so specific. It sounds like it's bullshit. No, it's God showing how surgical he's going to be. He's got this shit down to the fucking hour. And that will happen. And when it starts to happen, people are going to get spooked. But the good news is, because I've sacrificed, dignity, any resources I've had, my fucking self-respect, like I've been humiliated, like all of that was on behalf, like sacrificing for God. So I'm like, well, what's another 3 weeks, right? So the key is I got to keep my mind, yes, this is going to work, and we're about to go off to the fucking races. But let me finish that 42 months thing. So 42 months, 5 months, and then 13 months, basically. So that's 18 months. Now, where do those go in the 42 months of power from this Antichrist character? They'll be at the end, and there's not going to be a gap between them because, locusts tormenting people, followed by the actual time where people die. There's no gap there. Like, why would the locusts stop and then you have 6 months and then bam, all of a sudden people start to die? So those are back to back. Here's my point. If there's ever, like, you have the beginning of the Antichrist, you have the end of his period, which coincides with the end of 1/3 of humanity dying. So when you backtrack 13 months, then you get to the end of the locusts. And when you backtrack another 5 months, you get to the beginning of the locusts. And then there's all this period that, in between, like, he took power and all that. Here's my point. Unless you know who he is to start, you can't figure out, like, the timeline. But if you don't know who he is, you can still figure out the timeline if you have these other markers, right? So when the locusts start, when they stop, and then when people die, okay? So, like, you could obviously be like, 1/3 of humanity died here, so who was in power 42 months? Who took power 42 months beforehand? The key with the locusts is we don't have to wait that long. So when did locusts start, or when did they stop? Well, right now they're ongoing, so that means we don't know when they stop, but if you look at the beginning, when they started, you'll see that they began in January. Now, every year on this planet, there's a locust or whatever. But in 2019, in particular, they called it. It's like a biblical plague. It's hitting multiple countries. Saudi Arabia, Iran, Qatar, fucking Sudan, Africa, Pakistan, like swarms of them. And you can see a map if you go to FAO. If you type in FAO UN or FAO locusts, you'll see it's a division of the UN that actually tracks these things because they're so dangerous. Here's my point, that this year's a standout year. So if they started in January, 5 months later is June. That means that if in June people start to die, you look back not to January when they started, but all the way to the beginning of a 42-month period using those as markers. And guess what? You can pinpoint January of the beginning of the 42-month, of the year at the beginning of the 42 months. I was avoiding saying January 2017, but the point is, you can see every world leader who took office in January of 2017. There's 8 of them. Guess you haven't heard of any of them except one, unless you live in the country where he's like prime minister or president or whatever. But no one on this earth has heard of any of these people. Most of us haven't heard of any of these people except one, and everyone knows who he is, Donald J. Trump. So if Donald J. Trump is the Antichrist, because the locusts seem to be pointing to it, then people start to die on January 19th, 2019, which is exactly an hour, a day, a month, and a year before before the end of his 42-month period. My point is, if God could pinpoint the Revelation 12 sign, if he could pinpoint, the witness 1,260 days, if he could get the sea of glass and fire and the beginning of the sort of judgment period, then he did that within 5 minutes, then he can fucking pinpoint over an hour, day, month, and year ways to kill 1/3 of humanity, you see. He's showing from my story and all the evidence on this channel and in the memoir that he can prove, or that he's shown or he's proven in every case that he can satisfy. So going into this June 19th situation, I have no reason to believe that he won't. You see that? So I'm hoping that he doesn't, because I don't want to fucking cause like 1/3 of humanity to die. Like, if it's my choice, I'd rather them not die, everyone rolls over. But see, it's God's will, and I wrote the memoir, which documents the whole journey. So it's a fucking, it's a catch-22. Maybe that's not the right way to say it. It's not like you lose both ways, but you actually win if God starts killing 1/3 of humanity, because it's a gift for us to overhaul this whole world. And if he doesn't, then I get to go on with my life, because it's a bitch to do this. But out of duty, and in order to save fucking humanity, I'll suck it up for another 3 weeks or whatever. Talk to my deacons again, hopefully on Sunday. I'll, continue to cultivate the thinking of one of them. The other one, I'm just going to be like, look, I'm going to present evidence for every point within Revelation, and I'm just going to concede that you are going to offer a different explanation for everything that I show you. So that's all fine and good. And that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is the fact that I documented everything, all of my explanations, in a book, and it put me in the book. And because of that, and this timeline, and the fact that it's Donald Trump, and there is a God, he's going to start to solve for 1/3 of humanity's deaths. Now, when you hear that, it's like, I don't want to die. No one wants to die. So if you believe in God, and you can kind of understand that once people start to die, you don't lose 1/3 of humanity on the first day. You got to fucking like a year and a month and a day and an hour. That's a lot of time. But on average, that's 5 million people a day, 4.7 million a day. Now, it could come in wave. You don't know how he's going to do it. It's his. You're not God. I'm not God. He's got it all solved. And his goal is to take control of this whole bitch, the whole world, where we voluntarily offer it up. And he's just going to keep thumping on us until we can't, until he gets, the reins. And the reason is because someone finally articulated this whole fucking thing, because I sacrificed everything I had to prove his existence. And because of that, I'm King of Kings, 100%. The lion of the tribe of fucking Judah. And this is why it's shit like this, because when everyone else gets to go and do all their bullshit, I'm hanging on. And I'll keep hanging on. So, try to compete with me in terms of sacrifice. I don't care who you are. You have not given up more than I have to fulfill the book of Revelation by putting yourself in it and document it and can prove everything that you've done, because you haven't done shit. The second runner-up is my dad, because he did the same. He started to do the same thing in 1983. That's why I was killed as a baby. That's why when I came back, I seemed different from my drowning, because he heralded in. He's fucking the archangel, like the equivalent. He's Gary, he's my dad, but he's human being. But he represents the archangel Michael, heralding in the second fucking coming, the root of David, the lion of the tribe of Judah. And this is why. So, if you guys want to contribute to, this sounds like I'm about to ask you for money. Fuck that. If you want to feel, if you want heaven or euphoria just for yourself, then the only solution is to run at contributing to the creation of the millennial kingdom. I just sketched it out. Now there's a lot of work to do. So if you guys do this and record your journey like I did and show all your sacrifice, then you're going to get what's called a theophany. And a theophany is you're going to see the face of God. You sacrifice enough, you're thinking about him 85% plus time in your day. By the way, it's, to do it, it's not easy. People get hospitalized, medicated, incarcerated, or killed for attempting it. That's where they get hospitalized or medicated, incarcerated. I think there's a jail around here, and then killed, whatever. But the reason they do is because they don't uphold the 10 Commandments when they're playing the game, which is, I'm thinking about God all the time. I'm pretending like he's monitoring my thoughts because he actually is. And when you're ready, after enough sacrifice, boop, fucking theophany time. And you're going to resurrect a prophet from the Bible. It's going to be awesome. You're going to go through this spiritual 90 seconds, and you're going to film it because you'll be so used to it, because you'll have enough footage proving your whole fucking journey. No one on this earth will believe you except me, because I've gone through the same thing. And then there'll be 2, and then someone else will do it, and there'll be 3, and then 4, and then 5, and then ... And you will act as we're all going to fucking talk about our experiences, learn from them, understand God, and we're going to rule this bitch with a rod of iron. You'll be my counsel. I have the scepter. And I'll pass it on once I'm fucking good and ready to someone who's worthy of it, which we're going to figure out how God's going to choose the second, or the successor. Because it's not going to be a person related to me. Because there's no such thing as family anymore. It's you believe in God or you believe in something else. Money, secrets, privacy, fast cars, trips to Miami, banging girls, whatever. And then you have suffering for God. Either way, I don't know. It's going to fucking go like a rocket. I think in Revelation says, surely I come quickly. I have to, right? That's like what they're saying there. The whole point is to do it digitally. Not in a fucking back room meeting with some deacons. So I'm going to start recording that too. Anyway. All right, I feel better now. See you guys.